Hello, my name is Sheila Frampton Cooper, and this is my exhibition, Fantasy Abstraction. The reason I chose that name is because I love working abstractly, but I open myself to all of my experiences and fantasies and desires that are in my subconscious, and without thinking, they come through in my work. So I never really know what's the result will be until after I see it, maybe 75% of the way through. I construct my quilts in 3 different ways that I have here today: regular piecing, applique piecing, and whole cloth paintings. So we'll be taking you through a couple pieces, and I'll be explaining my process and where I started and my thinking. I'm from Los Angeles, California, but currently I'm living in the south of France, so I took 3 planes to get here. I'm also teaching a couple classes, which are going awesome, and I'm really happy to be here in Grand Rapids for the first time. The first one I want to tell you about is one of my newer pieces. This is called Jungle Love. I actually created a small ink drawing of the image, and I projected it onto freezer paper. I buy the rolls of the U-line freezer paper and I tape them together. I'm cutting out each shape after, putting it on the wrong side of the fabric, cutting around the shape with a 1/4 inch seam, and with registration marks, I'm putting it all back together. So when it's finished, you have a quilt top with a 1/4 inch seams, but no actual applique or fusing. And it's the only way I can bring my drawings into quilt form and still have the 1/4 inch seams the way I like. This is using a combination of commercial fabrics and fabrics that I've hand dyed myself. And after it was finished, really after I put the color in, I started to see animals and jungle animals and fish and elephants, lizards, snakes, lots of, it all just popped out. But until I put the color in, I really didn't see that. So this is Jungle Love. This piece is kelp, and my mother actually named it. After she saw it, and with this little burst of what she said, it looked like the kelp and the plants at the bottom of the sea, with the pieces that break off and you see at the beach, and then I saw it too. Normally when I start my pieces, I have no idea of what it will be. And it's always, I like working improvisationally because it's always a surprise when I see what's there. Now this, I love color, and most of my quilts have a lot of color. But I'm very inspired by the Japanese quilts that I've seen, the taupe colors that are more quiet. So I wanted to do something like that in my way, with just having a little pop of color and having it move through, where this piece really focuses on the values and the different values of the neutral colors. Also, there's a lot of movement happening here, quite a bit, but because I've used the neutrals, it's still a little bit more calming. And it's the only one I've made like this, but I probably will do more. But often when I start a piece and I say, okay, my intention is to do something like this or that, it goes in whatever direction it wants. So this is kelp. So this is one of my newer pieces that I created this year, and it's definitely influenced by what I've seen and experienced where I live in the south of France. This is called the Ruins of Roussillon. And there is a village, a large village, that used to be where they mined ochre. So all of the structures, the buildings, everything are this color, this ochre, orange color. But you are surrounded by greenery of nature, the trees and everything. So that, I started with my inspiration of the color, but then it just started to go, of course, in the direction that it wanted to. And when it was finished, I could see ruins. I imagine an ancient Mayan village, but with this one, an ancient village, maybe thousands of years ago, that was in this place. and now as if you were having flying above and looking down. But then you have what I always start often in the center. So this is where I started. And it's clearly a tree with roots, just kind of this foundation, this rock here, and everything kind of takes off from there. But this is entirely pieced with no plan, and it's a different color palette for me, but I love it because I love this particular place. Now we're going to switch right over to this, which is another one of my newer pieces. And I made this in France. This is a whole cloth painting. So the figure is painted using Procyon dye, but to do the background, I used acrylic paint because I painted the figure first, with a tiny watercolor brush, but to get around and go around all of the tiny little shapes that I had, I needed to have absolute control and to make sure that it wouldn't move. Also, I did free motion embroidery using fluorescent thread to outline the little shapes. And this is Fire Kachina dances, and part of my genetic ancestry is American Indian, and I'm very much influenced by that naturally in my work and my love of nature and all of these types of things. And before I started quilting, I created a series of small watercolor paintings, and this is actually was a little watercolor painting before, and I wanted to bring it into quilt form. So this is Fire Kachina dances. The last one I'll share with you is Maui, and this piece started with just these 3 yellow sort of sun drops, I call them, because when I made a trip to Maui maybe 10 or more years ago, you have the sun and you have the rain. And as this piece started to come together, of course I didn't realize that I was inspired by that trip when I started, but everything started coming. So for me, my experiences were the bamboo forest, the black sand beach. The islands were of course formed from volcanic activity, so this is weaved through the piece. And there's 7 sacred pools, these bodies of water that are surrounding you. And also a bike ride that you ride to the top of this mountain in the morning, and then you ride down for the sunrise rather. And that's what this symbolized. So for me, it's always kind of fun to just see what pops out, because while it is abstract, it's not just whatever, it's always something. I just don't realize that until after. So this is Maui. Thank you so much for joining me on this quick little tour of my work. Grand Rapids has been awesome. It's the first time I came here. I've been to Paducah before, but it's been a wonderful experience in every way. The work here is exceptional, and I'm really happy that I could share my work with you. And I look forward to seeing you at the next Quilt Week.